Hi there, everyone. My name is Sarah Hunstead. I'm a paediatric nurse, a mum of two, and founder of CPR Kids. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how to prepare and support your little ones or bigger ones through COVID testing. Because, even as an adult, sometimes, you think, okay, yeah, I've got to have this done, but it can be really daunting. So when you're a little kid or even a bigger kid who perhaps hasn't had this done before or who has had a traumatic experience with it in the past, it can become a massive thing. And so what I'd like to do over the next 15 minutes or so is just talk about different ways that you can help prepare your child to try and make it easier in the future if they do need to have one. And let's face it, at the moment, the likelihood of needing COVID tests are pretty high, really, when we think about it. And also what you can do during it and after it to help support them through that as well, and make the experience the best that it possibly can. Because what we do when we have medical procedures on kids like COVID tests, or even needing to have a blood test or having some stitches or glue if they cut their head, all of these little things, well, I say little things, but they can feel like huge things. But all of these things kind of, if you imagine it's like a bank, that it just keeps on adding up, and all these experiences really go on to form how they feel about medical procedures in the medical system as they get into adults. And so making that the best experience that we possibly can now for them is so important. Now, before I go any further, can I get you just to tag anyone down in the comments below who you think will benefit from having this information? That would be absolutely fantastic. And just give me a wave or a thumbs up just so I can make sure that all the tech is working as it should, because I have done a Facebook Live not realizing that the microphone was on mute. And really, that wasn't much fun for anyone. So that would be great if you could do that for me. And before we go any further as well, I just want to say that I'm going to give you a whole lot of different tips and tricks that I've learned from my career as a paediatric nurse in the emergency department, because we do lots and lots and lots of different procedures and different things on children all the time there. But what works well for one kid could be terrible for another. And so that's where you knowing your child better than anyone is so important, because you might say, Sarah, there's no way I'm doing that particular thing with my kid. That would traumatize them more than the actual COVID test itself. No way. Of course, completely understand that. Whereas somebody else who's watching might go, yes, that's really going to work for my kid. I love it. So remember that what works for one might not work for another. Sometimes it's trial and error. Sometimes it's just knowing what your child is like. And so remember, it is not one size fits all for this, okay? So, but there are two things that are incredibly important, and that is communication and trust. Without those two things, no matter what the experience is, it's going to be terrible, okay? So the first thing, we have to tell the truth when we explain to our kids what is going to happen to them. We cannot lie, okay? That is the biggest one. We can't tell them that they're not going to touch your nose. No, they're not going to stick anything in your throat. No, we don't. They're not going to do anything like that. No, you're not going to feel anything. It's not a thing. What it does is then when we go to take our child for the COVID test, that they do touch their nose and their throat, and it might feel uncomfortable. Some kids laugh through it. Some find it really traumatic. But the fact that we've said that they're not going to feel anything, what that then does is it breaks that trust with us. So next time they go to have a medical procedure and you say to them, oh, no, it's not going to hurt, or no, none of that, they're not going to believe you. And breaking that trust around that is really, really hard. And that goes for parents and clinicians. Clinicians should never lie to your child either about what they're going to do. Now, it's how we deliver the truth that's the important thing. We do it in a supportive and calm way. So being able to describe what's going to happen. So a really good thing that you can do is watch the Royal Children's Hospital video on getting a COVID test. Basically, the camera follows a little girl going through all the motions of arriving and then having the test and then afterwards. Because what that does is it shows them what's going to happen. You can then help explain. And when they say to you, oh, is that going to hurt? You can say, well, you are going to feel it. Some people say it feels like a tickle. Some people say it feels really uncomfortable. We're going to have to wait and see how that feels for you. But it's over very quickly. You can see in the video, see how quick it is. And so being able to tell them the truth about that is really, really important, because even if it is an awful experience, they will still trust you because you never told them that it wasn't going to be. Do you know what I mean by that? And we've got to start that from really, really young. It's just how we communicate it that changes as they get older. So please tell the truth about what's going to happen. And when you tell them, that's up to you, because I do know that some kids, if you tell them, okay, we need to go and have a COVID test, they would like lots of preparation. That's one of my daughters. So what she needed to know was, what was it going to feel like? Can I watch it? So yes, we watched the video, what was going to be done. She wanted to know where we were going. She wanted to know when we were going. She needed to know all the information in as long a time as possible so she could digest it, absorb it, and then we were ready to go. Whereas I know some kids, and this is one of my colleagues, a nurse who I works with, her son, what he does, if she tells him hours beforehand, he just gets more and more anxious and builds it up and up and up into the point where it's so overwhelming. So what's better for her and her son is that she tells him just before they're about to go. So there isn't that hours of period of time where he works himself up to get really, really anxious. And so it's all different for kids. But you know what works best for your child. But remember, telling them the truth, but telling them in a age-appropriate and sensitive way, but while still telling the truth, is incredibly important. So remember that communication and trust. We've got to keep that trust. All right. So let's talk about the preparation. Medical play, not just before a COVID test, but all the time, is so, so important. Letting kids, it's about taking the unknown out of it, taking the mystery out of it, because often it's the unknown that's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. So having, a pretend play medical kit at home and doing things, being able to do a COVID swab with, a cotton bud, the ones that you're not supposed to clean. I wasn't going to say clean out your ears. I wasn't going to say that, because you're not supposed to stick them in your ears, remember. Often they're just for applying a bit of makeup or something, but the cotton tips. So those, getting your child to play and do a COVID swab on their favorite teddy. So get them to do it on you. All of that medical play is so, so important, because it takes the mystery out of it, it prepares them, and it's such a good thing to do. If you've got a pretend stethoscope at home, or you can make some out of like foil and sticks or something, get them to listen to their toys' hearts and their chests. And so, measure temperature, get them to give medicine to their toys, not real medicine, of course, but pretend, all of that kind of stuff. Let them play with all of that is really important. So, next time you go for a COVID swab, you could always ask, can I take one home? So that if it is a traumatic experience, so when you get home, you can take it out of the packet and they can feel it and touch it and see and do it on their teddy bear. Because a lot of the time, the nurses want to work with you. They want to make this the best experience it possibly can for you and your child. So the other thing that you can do is you can model, okay? So if your child needs a COVID test, then chances are you probably need one too, really. So you could actually go first. So you could go first. They can see what happens. They can see how you react. The first time my kids had to have one, I needed one as well. And I went first, and I laughed through the whole thing. My eyes were watering. The kids thought it was hilarious. It was really uncomfortable. I did not enjoy it, but laughing is what I do when things are uncomfortable. But my eyes were watering, and the kids were like, okay. And then when it stopped, they saw how fast it was, and they went, all right, okay. So it took the mystery out of it. So maybe you can go first. right? The other thing you can do, which I think is one of the most important things, because remember what we're doing is when we're having children who don't have a choice about having a medical procedure, and when I say don't have a choice, there's a whole very fine line here between sometimes we have to do things and sometimes we don't have to do things, and giving them that choice. That's a whole other kettle of fish, which I'm not going to go into at the moment because otherwise we'd be sitting here for a long time. But sometimes having a medical procedure done, we've got to do it. Okay, I'm all up for giving children absolute choices because it's their body. They should be able to choose what happens to it. But there's a very fine line here. I don't want to say it's grey area. It's not a grey area. But anyway, I'm going to digress into that. I'm not going to do that. Let's just talk about giving them choice. So the choice may not be having a COVID test, but the choice may be what nostril do they want to go in? The choice may be, do you want to sit on mummy's lap or daddy's lap or grandma's lap or auntie's lap, whoever it is who's looking after the child, if there's one of you there together or if there's two of you there because you're all needing to get swabs. Obviously, if you're not all going along just for one child, one of you needs to go. But giving them some choice, okay? Being able to say to them, okay, which toy do you want to hold? So empowering them with some choices. It may not be having the COVID test, but it may be other things all around it. What do you want to watch on the iPad or the phone while you have your COVID test? Getting them to hold on to it so their hands are occupied at the time as well. Okay. Telling them the truth. Okay, the nurse is going to do this now. 3, 2, 1, let's do this. Okay, go. So all of that kind of stuff is really important. So what choices are you able to give them? All right. And distraction. Distraction is awesome, particularly when it comes to the toddlers and the little ones. Having a distraction kit is so important. So a distraction kit, I keep it with my first aid kit, and a distraction kit has toys and stuff to keep them occupied. What for only medical procedures, like if they've cut themselves at home and you've got to put a Band-Aid on, they're crying because something comes out. If they burn themselves, you've got to run it under water, or getting a splinter out. A distraction kit really does only come out for those occasions. So in your distraction kit, you might want to have one to take with you for COVID tests. So in my distraction kit, when my kids were younger, I had this orb. And when you turn the orb on, it had all these amazing kind of stroby light, well, not stroby, but kind of bright lights. And it was just mesmerizing. See, I'm thinking of it now and my brain's not functioning because I'm thinking about these beautiful colors. And it was, so every time I got that out, because the kids didn't usually play with it, they would be like this, and then I'd be able to flick that splinter out or whatever because they'd be so distracted by this thing. So having a bright or a noisy toy, or what do they love the most? They love cars, and you've got this particular car that sits up there that they never ever see unless this comes out, and they can be so distracted by that. Boom, COVID test is done while they've got that. So thinking of those things, what's their favorite show? Is there an episode that they haven't seen that you can keep in your back pocket, on your phone? And so new episode while they're having their test. They can all be really, really good things to help distract your child. Now, but what about reward? Okay, so there are some schools of thought out there that you shouldn't reward children for this. I think that's crap. I think that giving a child a reward is a really, really good thing afterwards. So, what somebody has said, so Stephen has just said as well, which candy or chocolate do you want afterwards? Yeah, giving them a choice, absolutely. And, afterwards, yeah, we're going to have a treat. We are. But there's a big but here. Don't punish them if things don't go well, okay? So it's about going through the motions of the procedure, not what their behaviour was during it, okay? So we don't want to, it's the fact that they've had to have it done that has the reward afterwards. If they cried the whole way through, if they screamed the whole way through, That does not mean that they don't get that chocolate or that ice cream that you promise them afterwards. They still get it, okay? We don't punish kids for how they feel during a procedure, okay? That is not good. They are allowed to express how they feel, okay? Really important. No punishment. But what actually prompted this Facebook Live was that I saw on Instagram a post by Sean Zepps, and he took his twins to get a COVID test, and it was an awful experience. And somebody in the comments below said that what she did, because this is what works for her kids, was she promised her kids ice cream afterwards. They got to choose what kind of ice cream they wanted. And just as the nurse was about to go and do the swab, she yelled out, "Ice cream!" And the kids went, and swab was done. So, I thought that was really clever, but because Mum knew her kids, all right? She knew her kids. Now, for the younger ones, sometimes we're still going to need to hold them because they do need to hold still. And I'm just going to grab one of my mannequins just so I can show you as well. Oh, here we go. So I've only got a baby with me. Ideally, I'm thinking a bit bigger than this. Actually, no, I do have one with me. Hang on. Oh, here we go. He was hiding around the corner. Sorry about that. So being able not to hold them down on a bed or anything like that, we want to cuddle them, okay? So being able to give them really nice cuddles, sing songs, maybe they're holding an iPad, just nice and still, so we've got them covered, we've got their arms in a cuddle, we can hold them just like this, and so the nurse can come in and do that. Or you might want to turn them around. You might want to sit sideways on the chair. Their arms are tucked underneath you, and you're just holding their head like this, okay? So there's lots of different holds, but make it feel like a cuddle, all right? And call it a cuddle too. Mummy or auntie or whoever is just going to give you a nice big strong cuddle, because we have to hold nice and still while the nurse does the COVID test, okay? And the one thing is too, is please don't use the test or the clinician who's doing it as a punishment. So I did hear, and this made me a little bit sad, the other day, somebody actually said, while they were holding a child, they actually said, if you don't hold still, that nurse is going to push it in further and it will hurt you. Please don't say stuff like that, because what it does is it makes the clinicians seem like people who can dish out punishments, okay? We don't want to hear that kind of stuff. I remember when I was working in ED, there was a little boy who didn't want to take his medicine, and I was sitting down and spending time, because that's the other thing as well. Spending time to explain and do things can work wonders. It really can. So being able to do that, and then the mum said to the little boy, if you don't take your medicine, that nurse, pointing at me, is going to go and get a needle, and she's going to poke that needle in you. And gone. That boy looked at me terrified. I couldn't do anything for him after that. He cried every time I came near him because he thought that I was going to give him a needle. So please don't use things like that as, to be able to, try and get your kid to hold still. It's all got to be the positive stuff. It really, really does. So what we've talked about is the importance of communication and trust, telling your kids the truth, even from a very, very young age, about what is going to happen. All right. Remembering that the way that you do that, the way you communicate that, has got to be what is going to resonate best for you and your child. All right. Medical play is so important. Okay. Being able to, get them to have choices. What toy do they want to take? What do they want to watch? Have you got stuff in your distraction kit? Modeling, you going first as well, giving them choices as well. Okay, which nostril are we going to do, etc., etc. So there's all sorts of things that we can do to really empower them, tell them the truth, and communicate with our kids. And at the end of the day, sometimes it is just going to be a really crap experience. No matter what you do, they are going to end up screaming the place down, and it's going to be traumatic for everyone. No matter what you do, sometimes that is going to happen. And the best thing after that, honestly, is just to talk to them about it afterwards. Don't punish them. Ask them if they're old enough, what would have made it better for you? Don't say there won't be a next time, because there probably will be. Okay, the way that we're going at the moment, there probably will be for quite a while, the need to have COVID tests. So ask them, what could we do next time to make it better for you? Give them cuddles, all of that kind of stuff, and just keep that trust and communication going. Okay, so debriefing about that is really, really important. Because sometimes it is just going to be crap. And I wish I had a magic wand that would make it not that way, but unfortunately, there isn't. And you know what? I'm just talking from experience today. There are lots and lots of experts out there as well who have done amazing things in this area. Oh, door slamming there. Of helping kids prepare for that. And please make sure you go out and search up some of that stuff. And I would love to know in the comments below now, what are some things that you've done to help your children through this? Has there been anything that you found that worked or didn't work with your kids? And remember, lots of different things happen in different testing centres. You may find that your child is much better when you go through a drive-through. You may find that you need to do a walk-in because they need to sit on your lap. There's a whole lot of different things around that. Work out what's best for your child. I mean, I actually heard from a family who messaged us who said that they were having terrible experiences because they were going through drive-throughs, and what they did is the next time they had the opportunity to go through to a testing clinic where they could walk in with their child, and their child was so much better because what they wanted was to be able to have a little bit more time, I guess, and also that physical wraparound contact before and after as well, and during. So there's no one answer for everyone. There really isn't. But I hope that has been helpful, and there might be something in that that can help you and your family. Okay. And you know what it is? It just is at the moment. It's just one of those things where we've just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other and do the best that we possibly can. Okay. All right, everyone. I'll see you soon. If there aren't any questions, I will certainly see you again tomorrow, where I'm talking with Dr. Deb Levy about more stuff basically about COVID and kids. Okay, so I will see you then. All right, bye everyone.